Hi guys, Madeleine Harvey here. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Hey, if you like today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up or click the subscribe button below. I would love to see you here more often. In today's video, we're gonna talk about the belt. What is it? What's it do? How do we get it? We're gonna cover all of that today. We're gonna get in there, we're gonna activate it. So by the time you're done watching today's video, you're gonna have everything that you need to get you started with your belting. There are 4 major components with a really cool belt. Number 1 is support underneath. Number 2 is bouncing the sound effectively inside of the mouth. Number 3 is adding the cry. We'll talk more about that in a second. And number 4 is engaging the chord. Treat all 4 of these elements as 4 very different aspects. Be very curious about each one. Make lots of really crazy sounds. Get in there, explore, roll around, and then move on to the next. By the time you've engaged and explored all 4 of these elements, you'll be able to belt with the best of them. Okay? I just want to say, let's start with a nice definition for what belting is. A lot of people tend to feel that belting is just extending your chest voice as high as you possibly can. And I don't want to say that's wrong, but it's not true. The voice needs to be able to shift and change accordingly so that it can maintain your balance. For me, I define belting as really energetic, really intentional, really full voice singing. And that's where a lot of people tend to think that it has to come from the chest voice, because the chest voice is that grounded feeling in the voice. And as we tend to leave that chest voice, it feels really unstable. So that's why a lot of people tend to just focus primarily on the chest voice when they start belting, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna get in those resonators and find a full voice expression everywhere, okay? Awesome. So I also want to say that if you're new to belting, you may feel that, okay, it feels very similar to just talking on pitch. And you would be right. It is really close to that. In our natural speech, our primary focus is not on how we sound, is it? No. We're not like, hello, how are you? No, we don't really care how we sound when we talk. We just simply express our minds. So belting feels a lot like that. But don't be tentative. Don't be scared. If it also feels like, okay, I'm getting into that screaming and yelling zone, register that feeling and then immediately relax into it, right? We're expanding our horizons with our voice, which means we have to explore those kind of uncharted territories. So don't be afraid to scream or hoot or holler, as my grandma would say, but register when it happens and immediately relax into it, because belting is not screaming or yelling. But we have to kind of feel that full voiceness sometimes with ourselves. Okay, all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The first element is awesome support underneath. So what we're gonna do is close the mouth, put the hands right under the rib cage, and we're going to whimper on a count of 4, a total of 5 times, like so. Now that was the demonstration. Now let's do it together. Medium range note. Here we go. And rest. Whew. Now, did you feel like it was like you were doing a little crunches nice and slow? If it felt like you were going, you weren't really supporting underneath. So let it feel like a little bit of a whimper. If you need to take it up like another note, go ahead and do that. But it should feel like you're whimpering underneath the sound. This is gonna get your diaphragm, your support engaged constantly under the sound, okay? Oftentimes what happens when we begin to belt is the pressure inside of the body changes rapidly. There's too much pressure between diaphragm and vocal cord, which kind of causes this high larynx placement, and that kind of results in shouting. So if we feel like we're going, ah, we've kind of lost the support underneath, or the breath is moving too fast. So as you're playing with that whimper, just register how slow that breath feels that it's moving. If we go, we might go, okay, that feels a little slower and more consistent and controlled rather than just, moving the air too fast, okay? Practicing that over and over again will make sure that you have really great support when you're ready to start to include the mouth, okay? Number 2 is bouncing the sound. Now, what do I mean when I say bounce? Well, singing is acoustic, meaning that vibrations are echoing and vibrating and resonating all throughout our entire body. A kind of mistake that a lot of people make when they start belting is, again, they shove all that energy, all of that sound out of the mouth, and that kind of results in yelling as well. So if I go, hey, doesn't really sound very good because I'm just shouting. So we want to make sure that it kind of feels like we're bouncing the sound out of the mouth, but particularly out of the middle of the mouth, right where that hard palate is. So with one hand on the app, we're going to kind of, talk for a second. And we're just going to say the word hey. But it's going to be like, we see somebody that's like really cute and we're trying to, hey, like that. But with a little bit more voice. So we're going to go, hey, 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 hey. We're just going to keep bouncing that hey off the center of the mouth. So let's try that together. Here we go. Hey, 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 hey. Good. Now make sure it's not Jamaican and we're not like, eh, okay? We don't want to squeeze the chords there, and we also don't want to hear too much of that H and go, hey, hey, hey. It should feel like a bounce off the center of the mouth. Hey, 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 hey. Okay? You can play with quick little taps, which is what I suggest to do when you're first getting started, and then extend it longer, like, hey. My voice wobbled there. Hey, 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 hey. Let's do that a couple times together. So it's like quick, long, and just kind of feel how the sound kind of swells inside. But keep that breath consistent. Here we go. Hey, 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 hey. Good. Do you feel what that feels like on the center of the mouth? Good. That's going to be a lot of where your belting resonance is going to gather, is inside the center of the mouth. But as we ascend in pitch, as we climb in pitch, we're going to need some of that number 3, which is adding that cry to the mix. So going back to the beginning of the video, I said that it was important not to think of the belt as just a chest voice, which is chest voice primarily resonates in the mouth, and it's like lower notes. But the voice itself needs to shift and change. Resonance is always changing, okay? Especially as we ascend or descend in pitch. So as we ascend, we know that we are going to start feeling the voice kind of climbing up the back of the throat and into the nose. Well, we know that we do not want it to suddenly go from full voice to breathiness, like, we don't want that. So we're gonna add what's called pharyngeal to allow the head voice, the nose resonances, and the chest voice, the mouth resonances, to kind of overlap, okay? And this feels like a baby cry. It feels like a baby crying. So we're gonna go, just to be silly, we're gonna go, wah, wah, wah. And just register where you feel that vibration happening. Go ahead, let's try it together. Wah, wah, wah. Do you feel that? Yeah, it's kind of up and back, right? Right where your nose meets the throat, we have this really cool little concave area of the throat and the nose called the nasal pharynx. So what we're doing is we're bouncing a lot of vibration off of that corner there, which is allowing the sound to kind of amplify, right? So if we go, wah, it kind of feels like the sound's coming right out of our ears, right? Let's try that. Wah! It's kind of coming from the side, right? This will allow you to keep your sound focused and speech-like as you ascend in pitch. A good way to practice that is simply to cry like a baby. Wah! 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 You also feel that support from underneath, so awesome job there. When you're ready to start to overlap, you want to go from high to low, okay? Before you go from low to high, like this. Wah! 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 Okay? Feeling that it stays kind of consistent in tone. And then you can switch it from low to high. Wah! Wah! Or hey! Hey! But the idea there is that we're not putting pressure on the chord, okay? We're not feeling like, hey! Hey! This is all happening inside of the resonator, okay? It's all happening inside of your head space. So number 1, support underneath. Number 2, bounce the sound. Really play with hey in a bouncing motion. And number 3, add the cry. And now number 4, we have engage the chord. I hope all of this is making sense to you. It's like a little recipe for belting. But what I mean by engaging the chord is, remember in the first part of the video where I said, like, you know, belting is very forward. It's like no holding back, right? It's speaking your mind and your heart and your emotions and telling a story. Well, we need our chord to be able to do that. So I'm going to give you kind of like 2 different sounds that you can play with to keep the chord engaged. And the first one is the most simple. And since belting is very similar to speaking, let us speak together now. And the only word that we have in our vocabulary, the only word that we know is mum. Mum, 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 mum. Okay? So that's our only word. So instead, we're going to use pitch and inflection and dynamics to say our piece. So if I'm frustrated, I might go, mum, 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 right? Do you see how I'm kind of playing with it? But I'm keeping my intent forward. I'm not going, ma, 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 ma. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just use it to show contrast of this way and that way, okay? We want to get our sound forward. So let's play together like we are, well, like we're angry, okay? But make sure it's happening all in the resonator and not down here. We're just adding the chord to it. Here we go. Ready? Ma, 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 ma. Ma, 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 ma. Again, there's infinite varieties of what you can do to play with it, but do you feel how the chord stays engaged without going, ma, 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 without getting tight? Cool. Very, very, very cool. So that's our first sound. Our second sound is to engage the chord, but on the inner edges. Belting should never be heavy, okay? It should never be heavy. It should be grounded, but not heavy. I don't need to go, hey, hey. Do you see how I'm like using the musculature of my neck to kind of squeeze and make it deeper sounding? Listen again. Hey, hey. Oh, I don't like that. But yeah, a lot of people will try to give body with a belt and end up squeezing using their muscles around here. So we can add the inner edges of the chords without squeezing on them with our muscles. So we're gonna just do a little crazy little sound called the vocal fry. And it sounds like a creaky door sound, like, it's really creepy. You can talk on the vocal fry. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. But we want to just kind of get that vocal fry going, which connects the inner edges of the vocal cords. And then we're just gonna kind of moan through it until we have chord connection, okay? It's like this. Ah. You hear that? One more time. Ah. This is gonna give you that full voice chord connection without weight, okay? Because again, everything needs to shift and change. But there you have it, guys. The 4 elements that when put together create an amazing belt. Just to review, we've got support from underneath, bounce the sound, add the cry, engage the chord. There's lots of different sounds that you can play with for each one of these to really get you started. But remember, don't be scared. Say your mind. Speak your mind. Get the sound out in front of you. And if you do notice, okay, I'm shouting, I'm yelling, that's fine, as long as you don't turn it into a habit. Register that feeling and immediately relax into it. Balance is key. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up or click the subscribe button below. I'd love to see you here more often. Thank you again for joining me, and I will see you next time.